Hi, everybody. We will get started in about a minute or two. Give some more folks time to jump into the GoToMeeting room, download GoToWebinar, whatever it might be. So give us about 90 seconds and we'll kick things off. All right, let's go ahead and get started for the sake of time. Everyone else will join us momentarily. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Theodore. I'm the manager of the business development team here at ChurnZero. Been here for about 2 years, was formerly an account executive. I'm super excited for the opportunity to be presenting today. We're going to be covering a couple different topics. One of my favorite topics, and actually one of our themes for a product roadmap, is customer success everywhere. So we've recently come out with some new cool integrations we'll talk about. There's some new features that will be super important. But besides that stuff, we really want to talk about, how you can be super proactive as a customer success team, simply using tools like Teams and Slack. We'll also talk a bit about how important it is to share the data that customer success has access to across your entire organization. So lots of cool stuff we're going to be going over this afternoon. Before we kick things off, let's do a quick poll. So basically just trying to gauge how proactive everybody's team is today. Think of, a very reactive team as being a group that operates almost like a support vessel. And, the other end of the spectrum, very proactive, world-class customer success team never misses a beat. We'll give everybody a couple moments to cast their results and we'll share them momentarily. Give everybody another 10 seconds or so. All right, we've got some interesting things going on here. So, it looks like about a third of the group is very reactive, and you're by no means alone. As a former CSM myself, I didn't have a tool when I was a CSM, so the squeaky wheels always kind of got the grease. Somewhat proactive, we got about 40%, 15% don't miss much, and almost 10% are very proactive. So kudos to those, the top 10% bracket. That's fantastic. So let's talk a little more about being proactive and really what that means for ChurnZero. So I've met with the hundreds of customer success professionals in the past 2 years here at ChurnZero, and I've noticed a common theme. Most people, they're really buying ChurnZero or customer success software for that matter, really for 2 main reasons. There's potentially a retention problem, meaning, hey, we're at 86% Spiro. We really want to get to 90% before we go and raise our Series B funding. On the other side of the coin, and more common than not, it's a scalability concern. Hey, right now, we've got 300 customers, great retention rates, and a team of 5, but we're growing super fast. In a year, we're going to have double the number of customers. We want to, double headcount. We need to make sure the retention stays at 94 as we grow and expand. That latter is definitely more common than you would think. But I think regardless of your pain points, your challenges, why you're evaluating or implementing customer success software, it boils down to one thing. Everybody wants to be more proactive. They want to have a better grip on the onboarding process. They want to be more proactive when it comes to how your customers are adopting your products. They don't want to miss out on the upsell opportunities. They definitely want to forecast the renewals properly. Those are all important things that we can accomplish. And you don't need like a super sophisticated library of playbooks that do everything for you. It's very, very simple in simply taking these steps in the right direction. So typically, when I'm meeting with individuals, I'll pose these 3 questions as really, conversation starters. Everybody wants to be more proactive. Well, how are we going to be more proactive? I think one of the greatest things to think about, and I would even write this stuff down as you're building out your new strategy and embarking on this journey, outside of QBRs and renewals, why would a CSM want to pick up the phone and reach out to one of their customers? And that's a great place to start. I think it's also worth pointing out that, when it comes to being proactive, a lot of people have to make a tough decision. But focus on tier one, which are our enterprise accounts. They're typically healthy, but they pay us a lot more. But focus on my SMB accounts. They're not paying as much, but there's a lot more of them to tackle. Maybe there's a self-service component to the business that's being unmanaged today. These are all areas to consider when you want to think about what KPIs and metrics can I use to be more proactive. And then, of course, probably the biggest thing, we don't want to miss out on potential expansion opportunities. So if you sell multiple products, you've got complementary products, you've got added services, we want to make sure that we're always capitalizing on those opportunities. And a good place to do that is just thinking about, hey, what does the perfect customer look like that's most likely to expand? These are all things everyone should start thinking about as they want to be more proactive as an organization. And a good place to do that is very simple. Churn Zero, we've integrated with Slack for years. We just rolled out in the beginning of this year a new integration with Teams. So simply by connecting, Churn Zero or customer success software to, communication tools is a great place to start when implementing a more proactive strategy. Now, specifically with Churn Zero, if you're not familiar with our tool, you've never seen a demo, there's a component to our tool called the segmentation engine. Essentially allows you to group customers or users, leveraging different attributes, enterprise versus SMB, customers that are dropping in engagement as far as product usage goes or accelerating engagement. Maybe it's a self-service customer versus a tier one customer. Those are all examples of segments. Regardless, you're able to slice and dice your data a million different ways and start creating some really strategic alerts or calls to action that are fed directly into Slack or directly into Teams. It works both with either application. What I think is pretty cool to point out is, we're able to get extremely granular in how you want to be alerted. These alerts can be tied to specific accounts. Maybe you also want to start figuring out, well, what can I do with my contact information? So, if you're a manager, maybe you want to get alerts for all of your team's customers. So it's a great way to kind of manage what your CSMs are doing, so they're receiving alerts when your team's accounts fall into certain categories. Or maybe if you're looking at working with the marketing department and we want to figure out, well, how do we develop a growing list of power users so I can find more advocates? It'd be really easy to create a segment to track that sort of data. And anytime you have a new user that meets the mold of a power user or a new account that falls behind in engagement, we can trigger those alerts to go off in both Slack and Teams. So without even creating super granular health scores, without building out an entire library of playbooks, which is obviously a great practice, by simply integrating your chat tools with Churn Zero, you can take a huge leap forward in your overall strategy as it pertains to just being more proactive. As soon as someone falls into the red, alert me. As soon as the account falls behind in the onboarding journey, notify the head of onboarding. As soon as 5 more power users are tracked, add those to the next advocacy campaign. All things we can automate simply by connecting tools you guys use every single day with Churn Zero. Now, alerts are great, but it's really just a piece of the puzzle here, tip of the iceberg, if you will. So let's move on to some stuff that's a bit more interesting, in my opinion. And before we do that, let's take a quick poll. So think about maybe your CEO or your CFO pings you, hey, I need to figure out what's going on within a specific account. Where would you go? Would you go into Salesforce? Are you going into spreadsheets? Maybe you've got a business intelligence tool, or Asana, Monday, basically input any productivity or project management tool as the fourth option. We'll give everybody about 15 seconds to share some of their results, and then we'll share with the team. So it looks like overwhelmingly, we've got Salesforce. Was not too surprised by that. It looks like about 60% of the audience would dig right into Salesforce or their CRM. About 10% would go into spreadsheets. I know that game all too well. And then about a third of the group is going to go into their BI tool. Shockingly, 0 people are going into project management tools like Asana and Monday. And that's fantastic. So thank you for the results. Thank you for sharing some feedback. Let's talk a little bit about where else you might be able to go, because Salesforce is going to be a great tool. It's most certainly the single source of truth for a lot of scenarios. I know before we had chatbots, a lot of that was done in Salesforce as well internally. So one thing we rolled out, this was probably about a year ago, we rolled out the chatbot for Slack. In January of this year, we rolled out the chatbot for Teams. Essentially what we're doing is we took this existing integrations with Slack and Teams and kind of took it to the next level. We built out a way for your entire organization to be able to very quickly access any information they might need about a segment of accounts, a specific account, even specific contacts, directly from tools like Slack or Teams. So you don't need to go into Salesforce, you don't have to go anywhere else. Everyone in the entire organization has access to this sort of thing, and you can ask some really cool questions to the chatbot and get some answers in real time. So maybe I want to look up a specific account and I'm on the road. Well, we can get back on the road, and you've got a big meeting on site. You can go into Slack on your phone and you can figure out who your power users are, how they've been using your application, health scores, survey results. I can even see where they're at in the customer journey from my cell phone. Also very, very popular among CEOs, leadership individuals. You know, everybody wants access to what ChurnZero has to offer. Well, not everybody has a license, or maybe not every organization wants to buy read-only licenses for the entire group. So not only is this a way to potentially, save money, it's a great way to share information about, across the entire organization. Because again, you do not need a ChurnZero license to do this. So if you're an executive and your team is looking at customer success software, you're looking at ChurnZero, you're thinking about, do I need a license? You might, but in reality, the chatbot, whether it's for Slack or Teams, is going to give you all the information that you need in real time, whether you're at home on your computer or on the go directly from your cell phone. And the chatbot is one piece of the puzzle. This is one way we can better share customer success insights across the organization, but it's not the end all be all. There's a lot of other things that we can do. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how important it is to share data that CS has access to across the organization, as well as how you can access that data in other existing tools you might be leveraging today. So obviously, there's a ton of data in ChurnZero. Everybody could benefit from information in some way, shape, or form. And I'm sure your leadership team is going to want all sorts of reports every Friday, every month, every quarter about renewals, upsells, survey results, customer health, onboarding statuses. All that stuff is great, but we can take it much deeper than that. Think about your sales team. Are they involved in renewals or upsells? Well, we got to make sure they can collaborate with the customer success team as well as access customer success data. Think about your support team. They've got a ton of fires they're putting out on a daily basis. Tickets are coming in all day long. They need to be able to respond to those tickets in a strategic manner. Maybe that means prioritization to some extent. Maybe you're thinking about marketing. This is one of my favorites because anytime I talk to someone and they have a customer marketing department, I always get them involved in the process because there's so much that marketing can do. Whether you're building out advocacy programs, getting references for the sales team, getting reviews on sites like G2 Crowd, all of those different items can 100% be accomplished without even giving them access to ChurnZero, or maybe bring them in. Regardless, there's a ton of information in ChurnZero that marketing teams are most certainly going to need. Finance, when it comes to figuring out customers that are behind on payment, that sort of thing. Always good to know where your customers stand from an account health perspective. hey, they're in the green, they're super healthy, they use us all day long, but they're late on their last 2 invoices. Probably something we can help out with there. And lastly, product. In my opinion, product and CS have become like the new sales and marketing. There's tons of reasons to collaborate, tons of added value there. Some organizations might have friction between those departments. The sooner you can, have those 2 groups aligned, it's going to have a great impact on the entire organization. So we've been talking about customer success everywhere, and I want to talk about real quickly, probably 2 of our most popular integrations and how ChurnZero is sharing insights with non-customer success people. And our 2 most popular integrations, hands down, are Salesforce for a CRM and Zendesk as a ticketing and support tool. So long story short, everybody in your organization with access to Salesforce, and let's be real, everybody typically does have access. Everyone that can access Salesforce would have direct insights into things like health scores, product usage data, NPS results, any key tags we're using to track our customers. They can even see all the interactions between a customer success team and a customer. So this makes collaboration between those 2 groups very much seamless. If customer success works in tandem with sales on the business or commercial side of things, it's a fantastic way to bridge that gap. Or even going back to the finance example, typically finance is going to have access to your billing tool. They're going to have access to Salesforce. Well, wouldn't it be nice if they could just go into their CRM and look at things like health scores before communicating to customers rather than having to ping a CSM in Slack? All these things are going to be super achievable. On the left-hand side, I've got an example of our Zendesk app. So the same thing we created inside of Salesforce, we've also added to the support tool. So long story short, anytime someone on the support team receives a ticket, as they open that ticket inside of Zendesk, they will have access to ChurnZero data. That way they can better understand information about the account, maybe more importantly, information about the contact. Well, hey, they've got a minor issue, but they're a tier 1 account. They pay us over $100,000 a year. They've got a great health score. And guess what? The person that submitted the ticket is an admin and a power user. Probably want to focus on those tasks before others. So it's a great way to, like I said, leverage insights natively to Salesforce and Zendesk. That way we're not disrupting too many workflows. Those teams aren't waiting for CS to send them details. And like I said, when you deploy customer success software and everybody has access to the data, it has a very, very big impact on the entire organization. And that's exactly where we're going to finish up. The Churn Zero ripple effect. I'm sure everybody knows what a ripple effect means, so I'm not going to use the corny macro econ example that I found online. But long story short, there is 100% a ripple effect across the entire organization when companies deploy customer success software. It truly does level up the entire organization. I've said it a few times, but from a sales perspective, we're able to better forecast renewals. Hey, this account has been with us for 5 years. They're renewing in 90 days, but guess what? They have a horrible health score, and they've killed us in the last few NPS surveys we've sent them. Probably want to use that information to better strategize and plan on how to tackle that renewal. Or maybe think about something like upsells. Earlier in the presentation, I talked about our segmentation engine. One thing you can do, what's really cool about our tool, is you'd be able to create essentially the DNA or mold of a perfect upsell account inside of ChurnZero. And then anytime one of your accounts meets that mold or enters that criteria as a potential upsell, well, I could have an alert sent directly to the sales team. So I think sales is probably one of the first to benefit from this because they're getting more accurate renewals, they're getting more upsells. What you could also start thinking about is, hey, do I offer trials in my product or service? If you weren't thinking about your trial, POC, or free accounts and how they would interact with ChurnZero, definitely start thinking about it, because from a sales perspective, imagine if we could take all of the accounts that sign up for trials and we can start monitoring their behavior inside of ChurnZero. And as soon as they hit the paywall, or maybe when they've done these 4 things, and that means they're typically going to expand, we can start creating some real-time triggers and alerts right in Slack and Teams. That way your sales team can be more proactive. One of our customers, RFP 360, is a great example of this. They track all of their trial users inside of Churn Zero, and they were able to convert, I want to say 500 or more trial accounts to paying customers by creating a very similar workflow inside our system. We talked about support. There's nothing. The most important thing here is, how does the support team have a full 360-degree picture before they're actually responding to their customers? They want to be able to access that data in real time. Marketing, another great example, before Churn Zero, maybe marketing, they looked at notes that salespeople put in Salesforce, and that's how they figured out who would be a good fit to test drive a new product or something like that. Not that helpful. Fast forward to deploying a customer success software. Well, all of a sudden, marketing, they know exactly who their advocates are. So maybe what they want to start doing is they want to send out we can send out an NPS survey on their behalf, and all of your promoters immediately have marketing get that information to add them to a reference or a G2 crowd or a trust radius campaign. So when you think about your advocacy programs, whether marketing has access to Churn Zero or not, the data that lives inside customer success software is going to be paramount in the marketing team, really maximizing those advocacy efforts. And lastly, product. Product and customer success working very closely. A product feedback loop is really easy. Hey, we rolled out a new feature, so send out a survey, see what they think about that feature. That's very easy stuff we can accomplish, on day one. A more advanced scenario or benefit a product manager might have in regards to my company rolling out Churn Zero is, all of a sudden, they can simply create their own reports full of power users, meaning someone in customer success can create a segment to devise a dynamic report of what a power user might be. And all of a sudden, now that when product rolls out new products, new features, and they need people to do the betas for them, they know exactly who they should be going after, because again, Churn Zero has already pointed out, these are the best accounts, these are the power users, these are the people most likely to use a complimentary service or give us really positive feedback. So as a whole, like I said, there is most definitely a ripple effect when you deploy Churn Zero or customer success software, and that in general, everybody benefits across the entire organization. So a few key takeaways. I think the most important thing to point out when it comes to being more proactive, you don't need to deploy customer success software and start building out, a giant library of playbooks and journeys and success plans. Sometimes it's as simple as integrating with your chat tools and taking baby steps. When it comes to, the best place to share data, well, if you use Teams or you use Slack, I think the Chatbot is the greatest way to go. That gives you the full 360. You don't need a user license. It's available on your cell phone. No more trying to log into Churn Zero, on a web browser. We just want to make that super straightforward on your phone in those apps. And lastly, sharing data across the entire organization 100% is going to level up each and every department, whether it's sales, marketing, support, finance, product, all of those teams and individuals are 100% going to benefit from the data that customer success has access to. That pretty much concludes my portion of the webinar today, but we have allocated some time for some additional questions. So if there are any questions, feel free to send them our way. It looks like this. All right, we got one in the chat. Is the account health auto-generated based on a data-driven algorithm? So yes, absolutely. You can essentially take any data point that lives in Churn Zero, add some context. Hey, I want to track the onboarding journey, but in order to get full credit, they got to be on time. I want to track, product usage, but I need them to use product A 30 times in 90 days. So like I said, add a little bit of color to the factor. More importantly, there's a point allocation system. So, hey, I want product usage to make up 30% of a score, but maybe they only do half of what I want them to do. We can give them half credit. So it's really granular, really intuitive. Like I said, we can use almost any data point that ChurnZero has access to as a health score factor. You could also create multiple health score types. I've seen customers create risk scores versus upsell scores. I've seen customers create an enterprise versus SMB health score. Maybe you own multiple products and not everybody owns the same products. So we can create health scores by product. Very, very straightforward. And let's see what other questions we have here. All right, this is a funny one. What if I don't use any of the tools mentioned in today's session? How do I share? Well, for one, we integrate with just about every CRM out there. A lot of that has to do with account information as well as collaboration. So if you're looking to collaborate with sales, marketing, or finance, and they all have access to the CRM, that's obviously super easy. But another thing to point out, and I didn't cover it today, there's a concept called live exports inside of ChurnZero. Everybody needs access to this data. Not everybody needs or has access. What we can do is we can create some really cool dynamic reports using any of the data that you have, and essentially have those automatically distributed to department heads, to leadership teams, to the board on an interval of your liking. So if you want a forecast report to go to the RevOps team every Friday, you want a monthly State of the Union report to go to your C-levels on the first of every month, we can have those created one time and automatically distributed across your entire organization, depending on your use case. And the last question here, does ChurnZero have a mobile app? We do not have a mobile app right now, but we are optimized for mobile phones. So you can definitely access ChurnZero on Safari or Google Chrome on your Droid or iPhone. But if you ask me, it's much easier if you're using Slack or Teams to access those applications. I know that's what I do when I'm on the road. It's been some time. The last time I was traveling, I was up in New York City. I was on the train, couldn't get Wi-Fi to work, pulled up my phone, got all the information I needed right out of Slack, had a great meeting. And the last question here, hold on one second. Integrating to your current, does ChurnZero map to your current fields, or do you need to redesign? Yes, it is bi-directional. No, you do not need to redesign anything in your Salesforce. By rule of thumb, everything that's in Salesforce probably doesn't all belong inside of ChurnZero. You get to pick and choose what fields you want to bring in. So whatever makes sense for the customer success team, bring that stuff from Salesforce into ChurnZero. We could have some static fields, we could have editable fields, we could have custom fields, custom objects, and it is all bi-directional. So any changes made in one tool would change data in the other system unless you tell us not to. So we never dictate what data, we don't harvest any information either. You're in total control of what data you would send to ChurnZero and where that source might come from. I know we're coming to the bottom of the hour, so we'll end the Q&A. There's no other questions that I see. But before I let everybody get back to their Tuesday, I wanted to let everybody know that on April 6th, one of my colleagues, Brian Hoffman, will be doing another impact webinar like this. He's going to be talking about customer journeys and the external sharing component and how important that is. So still very much focusing on our product theme, customer success everywhere, just looking at how we can share insights through a different lens, through a different stage. Should be a good one. Definitely sign up. And that's all that I've got for today. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, anything they might want to share with me, feel free to shoot me an email, find me on LinkedIn, whatever you guys and girls might need. Also, if you're looking for a demo, whatever it might be, all of our information is below. Happy to show everybody how the chatbot really works rather than just do it in a PowerPoint. But that's it for today, folks. Have a good one. And yeah, happy Tuesday. Bye-bye.